In this video, we are going to discuss requirements gathering in Agile projects. Agile is iterative and incremental. Requirements are not expected to be fully known at the beginning. Instead, they evolve through collaboration, feedback, and progressive elaboration. Agile accepts that change is a constant. Here are some of the techniques used in Agile. Firstly, user stories. Lightweight, flexible expressions of business needs. For a customer loyalty mobile app, one user story was, as a customer, I want to see my loyalty points so that I can redeem rewards. Okay, generally, user stories can be quite wide-ranging, but they will serve as the foundation for further refinement. Second, backlog grooming and refinement sessions. The product owner, business analyst, developers, and QA meet to clarify stories. For example, in a large national health service program for software development, we held bi-weekly grooming sessions where the team reviewed upcoming stories. Developers would often say, "This story is missing edge cases," prompting the BA to follow up with users before the next sprint. Third, workshops and collaborative discussions. Less formal than waterfall, but just as important. For example, again, for a large NHS project, we ran informal design feedback sessions with stakeholders every Friday. They provide feedback on wireframes or working code, helping us adjust before building the next feature. Next, prototyping and wireframes. Hint: visual communication saves time and clarifies expectations. For example, when working on a new UI for an airline check-in system, a quick Figma mockup helped the business visualize the changes. This avoided several rounds of back and forth and sped up approval. 5. Acceptance criteria defines done for each story. Example, in a fintech project. Our story for view transaction history included: must display the last 90 days, must allow filtering by amount, date type, must be mobile, responsive. These criteria were used by both QA and the developers to validate the implementation. 6. Behavior-driven development. Experienced technical teams will use a given, when, then syntax. Example, on a retail checkout system, we defined, given I have items in my cart. When I apply a valid discount code, then the total should reflect the discount. Now, let's take a look at the project manager's role in each approach. In Waterfall, you're the guardian of the scope. Partner with the BA to ensure all requirements are documented, approved, and traceable. Ensure no design or development starts without clear sign-off. Monitor scope creep and manage change control tightly. In Agile, you're the enabler of progress. Ensure requirement stories are refined before sprint planning. Remove blockers that stop the BA or product owner from getting answers. Encourage team collaboration and help balance evolving requirements with sprint goals. Here's some real advice from the field. Beware the invisible stakeholder. In a waterfall pensions management system project, we thought we had everyone at the table. Midway through UAT, a compliance officer stepped in from nowhere and rejected several key features. This happened. Always double-check your stakeholder list. Stories aren't requirements, conversations are. In Agile, user stories are just placeholders. The real requirement comes from dialogue. Encourage your team to ask, what does success look like for this story? Get comfortable with ambiguity, especially in Agile. One of my projects started with just a goal: improve customer retention. We discovered what that meant over several sprints by testing ideas and measuring results, and it wasn't what we originally thought. Next, I want to discuss something that I have always found to be immensely useful in both waterfall and Agile projects. And that is the concepts of requirements, traceability, and how we use this in our eventual user acceptance testing. Generally speaking, and certainly within the world of IT, project managers are not responsible for testing products or artifacts. This is the area of specialist testers and test managers who have very specific ways of doing things. We won't be covering these activities in these videos. However, there is one area that you, as the project manager, will almost certainly be expected to plan and manage, and that is the final acceptance of the finished product. And prior to this, we need to undertake the last step in any development process: user acceptance testing. And this is where our stakeholders might start acting like a bunch of restaurant diners who have just been asked to split the bill. There will be comments like, "I didn't order a starter," or "I thought the calamari was supposed to be grilled and this is fried." You get the idea? They will start to argue that this isn't what they expected, or some key feature is missing. Well, perhaps that key feature is listed in the backlog and scheduled for later delivery. Or maybe no one thought to mention it. This happens. So now we need a tool to stop this happening. And the preferred tool is the Requirements Traceability Matrix. Requirements traceability is your weapon against hearing the words, "I thought this was included," at the 11th hour. This, together with your risks and issues log, are the most powerful weapons in your arsenal for keeping stakeholders and requirements aligned. So, how to build and use a Requirements Traceability Matrix? A Requirements Traceability Matrix, or RTM, is an essential tool that helps project managers and business analysts ensure that every requirement defined for a system is tested and fulfilled throughout the project lifecycle. Building an RTM begins by listing all approved requirements, whether business, functional, or non-functional, typically drawn from your business requirements document, user stories, or stakeholder interviews. These requirements are entered into a structured table, each assigned a unique identifier for tracking. Adjacent columns are added to link each requirement to its origin, for example. Stakeholder, regulation, corresponding design elements, development tasks, test cases, and final validation or user acceptance outcomes. In waterfall projects, the RTM provides linear traceability from requirements to testing, ensuring that scope changes are properly managed and audited. In Agile environments, although more lightweight, a simplified RTM can link user stories to acceptance criteria, sprint goals, and testing activities, preserving accountability. The RTM is especially valuable during change control and user acceptance testing, allowing teams to verify that all requirements have been addressed. Nothing has been missed, and every change is understood in context. It also supports regulatory compliance and serves as a communication tool among stakeholders, developers, and testers. For new project managers, mastering the RTM fosters discipline in scope management and increases project transparency, a critical asset in both formal and adaptive project frameworks. So, in conclusion, requirements gathering is both an art and a science. In Waterfall, it's about defining the blueprint before the build begins. In Agile, it's about continuous discovery and iterative delivery. As a project manager, your success is tied to how well your team understands and delivers what the customer truly needs. Your business analyst is your ally in this process, whether crafting a 100-page business requirements document or refining a 3-sentence user story. Respect the nuances of their role and support the conditions that allow requirements to emerge, evolve, and succeed. Remember, in many environments, you may find that you are expected to function as both the project manager and the business analyst. So it is important that you understand at least the basics of requirements gathering. Business analysis is a fascinating subject in its own right, and far too complex and involving to fully explore here. That is why I wrote a separate book just on this subject. Now, we have at least some understanding of the fascinating world of business analysis and requirements gathering. In the next series of videos, we will be taking an in-depth look at something else that is critical to the success or failure of any project, and that is managing risks and issues.